Let's escape to the French Linen Botanical Journal. Hello and welcome to the treasured page. I'm Melanie and this is our quiet crafting space. And today I'm just adding the things to the journal, things that I've been collecting up over the weeks, things that have been lying around the desk and projects that I've made in previous weeks or months or videos before. This is such an envelope that I do have another video on. I pre-dyed them a long time ago using an onion dye. So that is something that you can use to achieve a very pale, very pleasing sort of old paper, old world green tone. So if you're interested in dyeing papers using botanical dyes, natural dyes, this is how you collect the onion skins. So red onion skins produces a pale green colour, and that's the result of the red onions. So your white onions with the brown skins produce a pink, a very pale pink. So that's interesting because you'd think it would be the other way around. So that's what you do. Just collect the paper bit, not the smelly onion, just the paper outside of it. And then so next time you're cooking, you just throw it all into a Ziploc bag, and then you don't need to get involved with any of it. So in order to make an onion dye, all you would do is take 2 to 3 onions, large onions, the skins, maybe a bit more if you want a stronger colour, and you add the skins into a pan, cover them with water, let them sit and soak for a little bit, and then as you bring the water to a boil, you reduce the heat and let them simmer quietly, very gently. You know, you can step away and leave them to do that for about half an hour, 45 minutes. And when you come back, you strain off the skins and discard them or compost them. And you can then use the liquid as your dye. And it's as simple as that. But you can watch the video if you haven't already seen it. Okay, so I'm going to hinge this on. I think that would be quite fun to flip. Using up my scraps, I'm just going to work out where we need to have that. So I'm going to do what we've done before. If you haven't seen this, these are the connector pieces, and I'm going to decorate them with some stamps just to fall in line with everything else that we've got in the journal. Okay, I'm just bringing in some paper. I've got a botanical leaf image here from one of my extensive collection of silicone stamps. Sometimes these I get for free on magazines. I've collected them up like that in the past. Other times I find them in charity shops, and then I find them online as well. So where possible, try and see if you can get hold of some or borrow some, or certainly look out for second-hand ones. They do have the tendency to go a bit dry or a bit funny if you've separated them out of their packs. And by that I mean, when I have something like these are new ones and I can't even tell you where they came from. I think they came in a magazine or part of a magazine. In fact, I think they did. But actually the magazine is more expensive than the stamps, so it's probably better to buy the stamps directly. When you get them, they come like this. They have a backing perspex, or acrylic, and I always keep them with it. I don't separate because I then find that these go funny. They either go sticky, they go dry, they curl up the moment you separate them from this. Like here's one here which I use. This is the number one that we've used in the journal with clusters. When something like that loiters around the desk a bit, it goes dry, it loses its stick, so therefore I've got to go and wash it with some dish soap to bring it back to life. These are the ones I've used, and look, I haven't put them back where they're supposed to go, so that's my fault. That's poor discipline on my part, and it's annoying because these are 2 of my favourite stamps. So now I've got to try and wash them and revive them, find them and put them back in the pack. But if I keep them safe and tucked in between the intended pieces of perspex, I find that they store for a really long time. And while I'm on that subject, because I know that you'll be interested, hang on, oh my gosh. So I keep my stamps and my makeup brushes in this little container which I have in front of me. I've got a little shelf in front of me and that's where they go. And then it's all just easy to get at and I can rifle through them. I try, where possible, to keep these stamps with their backing pieces so that they're not touching, and it keeps them in position. So I don't throw away that back, is what I'm saying here. Okay, this is always quite fun to do with the stamps, just to go in different angles and to come off of the page as well. Just looks quite fun. Looks like there was a bit more to it. You don't have to decorate this. This could be a scrap of paper. This could be something like a nice decorative piece of paper, wrapping paper, or a scrapbooking paper piece. So all we do is fold it in half. I'm going to stick it down here on my envelope, lifting up the flap as I go, otherwise I'll glue that down and that's not what we want. We want to be able to still be able to close the envelope as well. So just make sure that that doesn't, you can't see it from the front, but it's there, and then that will be the bit that opens out. So take the scissors and just cut that to match the envelope behind. And then that's all we do with that one. Now I'm in my quiet crafting space. I've shut the door, I'm shutting the world away, and I'm just going to have a little moment to put this page together, a little time to myself. And what I'm doing is going to work out a little page format here, and I'll bring in some other elements and we'll just work out where everything's going. So I've started off by putting a strip of washi tape down the side there. That was for a practical purpose because on the other side I've got holes in the page from the piece of paper. It's just from a folder punched piece, so we wanted to hide that by the washi tape, and that is a really good way of just taking away some of the page where it sort of threatens to be a bit overpowering. And this piece was, I've been avoiding it all the way through the journal because it's the accountancy paper. It sort of didn't go with the others, so the best thing to do is just cover it and embrace it. I like that portion of it, but this was lines here, and it just looked, I just prefer that now because that's the third of it is covered up and it looks quite pleasing. So this now feels like it wants to go down there. Well, I could seal that shut and forget about the flip, and that could quite easily be a pocket if I glue down all three sides. Again, it could be a tuck if I glue down two sides. This L shape here then becomes a tuck. But for a flip, we're going to need a hinge and just connect the two together. So a hinge connector goes there, and then we can open that out and have things in there. The other thing I've got is this really nice botanical image which has been printed onto a very light translucent paper. So if you've got images such as this that you could print from the computer onto a tracing paper, that's quite a nice idea. This I think is a sort of a thin onion paper, but I think that would look nice there, and then the envelope to come in because it's all in this nice green tone here. I'm going to just come in a little bit, leave about 1/4 of an inch there, and that's where I will glue this down here. So I've got to glue that first, and then I'm going to have that over the top because what I think I will have it do is flip up. So using 3-in-1, I'm just going to do a nice bead of glue all the way around that and stick this down, coming in about 1/4 of an inch, leaving about that much. So before I commit and push that down, I just want to have a look at this other piece of paper here, which I'm going to line up against my washi tape strip and just make sure that it all close together. That's fine, so I'm happy with that. So I can stick that down and then that will fall over the top of it. So I'm lining the paper up here against my edge, and I'm just going to bring it right to the top, and then that should come over like that. And that's the start of the page. Then this is the bit where I'm going to have a trim. This, I've got a length of this blue, which I started off thinking I would have that right at the beginning, and we haven't used it throughout the journal as yet. So I think that might be a nice thing to come in and have there. Blue all the way. So this is a lovely indigo blue, navy blue sari silk. I'm attaching that down there so we get it spread out. And then that bounces off of that blue. I mean, it's quite a bold piece to have down there. I'll trim it off a little bit down here. Keep that bit because it just, you never know when you need a little piece of blue. And then this can flip up here and still be hidden writing space, which will then nestle back in there. I've got a scenario here. Hang on, get my pointy paintbrush. I've got a line here meeting a line here. I've got a step which is pleasing, but this line hitting here and this line going off here is creating almost a cross, like a T-junction here. So there's an empty space here, there's an empty space here, and my eye is drawn here. The lines are drawing me to look at this point. They're drawing me in, and the only thing I've got to look at is here, which is in the wrong place. So now I'm thinking I need a tab to fit there, and then that will indicate that this is a flip. You could have something here as well. I might do that, but I think what I want is something there. So I've now got to create something, which would be great if we had a little cluster, which we did have, but I've used them all up. So this is one of those little something moments where you just need a little something to fit in that space and hide that intersection point there. It's a bit nitpicky, but if you put something there, that would be the right place to put it. So let's have a look in our ephemera hold. Oh, hang on, this is one, isn't it? That could work. Okay, so the cluster works very nicely as a tab, and that could live there, and it's got a bit of blue in it, so that I like. And the fabric, it's okay. I mean, that's pretty good, but it probably wants backing. I think that's a pretty good option there. I like the way that goes off at an angle. The music notes bring something a little bit different, and it's strong enough to be a tab top to this. Might be a little bit too long, so I'm just tearing that bit away, seeing if there's enough ink on this. It's going to be about there. So it doesn't interfere with that flower, everything. So we've got 3 focal flowers there, and this just brings in texture. Sometimes when you've got a lot of bold colour, so I've got this great big strip of bright blue down here, I've got blue flower here and a blue flower there. That's 3 things, so I don't really want another shot of blue anywhere else. I could have a different tone of blue, so we can see here, this has got a little bit of blue lace. So that's nice, a different tone of blue. So when you've got 3 bold colours and you start putting another bold colour in, maybe over here, it will sort of work, but it will start to get busy. 3 is plenty, any more than that, and our brains start to feel that it's overcrowded. It's just a rule of threes. Sometimes too much colour can be overpowering. And if you can't put a bold colour in the same colour onto the page, the next best thing is to go for texture or sparkle. So you could either go for something golden glitzy somewhere, and that would be the intrigue, or something textured. But there's nothing to stop you having textured and sparkle. So let's think about that. Now, I'm putting that down there, but on those lines of maybe we could have a bit of sparkle, then you've got to think, what era are you talking about? Does it fit your theme? And do we really want a load of lace, a load of spangles, sparkles, glitter, all of that? Or is that very much of a different era? So because I'm looking at maybe 1905, 06, certainly that window, that early 1900s, we might not have had all the crystals and the sparkles and the things, although this was a very wealthy pair, but they weren't over embellished. They weren't an over decadent couple. So I'm thinking that bejeweled sparkles is not right for my... Sorry, there's lots of stringy bits that sometimes come off of that glue. That they may not be quite right. Having said that, a more sedate pearl would be a good idea over a glitzy gem. And a nice piece of silver would also work. So we could think about maybe a silver paperclip. That could be nice if you were going to have something up there, silver or pearl for this era. But in the interest of texture and mirroring, we've got texture here, we've got texture here, so we could have another texture here. And because we're dealing with fabric and cottons and going out to places such as Tibet and China, and they would have had silk merchants out there, maybe samples of silk were brought back, and that was interesting. So I'm thinking that would be quite nice to have a sample of silk there to go with this silk here. Just a random number, it means nothing, but it goes with the office theme of having numbers and accounts and accountancy, so it's quite nice to just have that as symbolic. We're symbolically journaling here, we're connecting it to a theme, but all these are just general ideas, so for anybody picking up this journal, there isn't anything too literal on it. I mean, they're not going to start learning about Nest Botanical Gardens because that's absolutely not been mentioned here at all. The only nod to it is that the people at the front, well, that is actually Arthur Bully and that is Harriet Bully. They are actual pictures of the actual people, but nowhere here is it labelled to say that. There's nothing in this journal that indicates anything to do with anything, any of the stories that I've been talking about. This is just quite a fun journal with botanical elements in it, and when you look at it, it's got nothing to do with a botanical garden on the Wirral in Cheshire. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. It's only my stories that have brought it to life over the internet. So this journal could absolutely be used by anybody else and interpreted in their own way. That's the beauty of it. So the essence of my storytelling in this journal is just my story. So anybody else looking through this journal could take inspiration for the images here and maybe get a sense of that Edwardian era, put their own life experience into the journal. Let life be beautiful like summer flowers. But that definitely does not say to anybody else that that is to do with the accountancy office at the Botanical Garden. Okay, on this page, I wrapped it with a digital kit of a vintage wallpaper, and I left it to come over the other side and gave a nice edge there. And now I can either stick that down, I can do a decorative edge on there, maybe with some fun scissors. I could attach something onto it, as I've done here, where I've got a similar thing. I then attached one of our stained papers and I've made a flip. I'm working on that one. So what I've thought here is I'm going to put these journaling cards that I have got from a digital kit. I just backed them with packaging paper to give them some strength. And this one's lovely. This one you can see, oh, well, I probably shouldn't point it out because I think it's just a nice age vintage effect. But actually what happened was I put down my wet glue, which was art glitter glue. And you can see the lines have come through and caused a discoloration. But then I've inked it to try and emphasize, just made that look like age spots. I've just sort of gone with it. But yeah, that's what happened. The glue created an aging effect, which I'm not sad about. That's a happy accident, I think. But that can happen if you use a wet glue. So this is where stick glue of good quality comes into it. But sometimes that means that peels up. So what I'm going to do is just using this digital kit, which is from Vectoria Designs, and it is, I think it's an old one from her collection. It's called Herbarium. It's great because it's got French. It's got all the French wording on there, and it's also talking about the herborists and chemists and using natural extracts. And then we've got this, which is an oil which would be used for a natural anti-inflammatory. So for sore hands, if they were doing a lot of gardening, this would be something that perhaps Harriet would definitely love to go to France to pick up some bottles of this, and they can make their own hand salves for the gardening girls. You know, that, oh, make sure you, when you go to Paris, definitely get some of that nice hand oil, and because they've got a recipe that makes the lovely hand cream, possibly. And they have to go here, and she gets her order for this camphora oil, and then they can make the lovely hand cream. Oh, and this is the shop she likes to go to because they sell the bonbons. Well, that's sweets, isn't it? So that's where she goes. So she gets all the little labels and tickets, and then she adds it to her journal. Of course, I'm making all this up, but that is why they're going there, because this is where my brain goes. Because Harriet is having a wonderful time going to Paris this weekend. Well, it's a week. It's quite a long time she's going for with her husband, supporting Arthur on his quest to sell alpine flowers to the French market. And he's got connections with florists in Paris. Yes, so he's going to see if he can help have a regular order over to Paris of his seeds and things with the growers over there, so that the florists in Paris can offer some of these beautiful plants that he has been working very hard to collect from all over the world. And if Paris florists are interested in it, they will obviously be selling to people that are going to the opera and places like that. And of course, the Royal Ballet and things that you would find in Paris. I'm using this funny glue again. It's a bit runny, I don't know why. Feels like they've changed the formula. Seems super runny. If anybody else feels that. I don't remember it ever being as runny as I'm experiencing, and of course it's caused this trouble here. I'm wanting to put that there. Maybe I should. I'll just put that there. What have I done here? Oh, and then what I need to do is I'm going to make this into a pocket tuck, and I think I probably just want to glue down this bit here and there. So off they go to Paris. They're buying all the seeds and special things. They're taking things over there. Oh, it's obviously cotton merchant as well, so they've got cotton going on. Perhaps he's gone to France to have a look at some of the options for flax seeds, which flax is used for creating linen. So the linen that we've been talking about, there's cotton plant and then there's the flax plant. So cotton plant makes cotton, flax makes linen, and none of them would have been grown in France. So the best type of cotton is grown in Egypt, Egyptian cotton, and flax will have been grown in similar areas, and I don't actually know enough about that. So if anybody knows anything about where flax would grow best back in the day when we were getting all the linen. It would probably be very similar, and a lot of it growing in places, well, in America possibly. I don't really know, I can't comment on that, haven't looked that up. So I know that a lot of the cotton growing went on in some of our Commonwealth countries, and Africa was one of them. So there we go, and that's another little pocket and tuck, but it is quite baggy without that, so thinking about it now, I am going to secure that bit down there. And so this is why I've got this here, because I love the idea that they went to France, and we know that they actually did frequently, because he did a lot of business over there, as well as visiting people that would collect seeds up on the Alps in France and Switzerland as well. So that's that. That's that. We've done 2 pages. Let's go with something here as well. And the other thing I've got is this is a book page of a herb. So this is a flower. This could be something that was found up on the Alpine Swiss mountains or the French Alps. And the date, and I haven't done this recently, I did this ages ago, and just so happens that that's the lady. It's got Paris on it. It says escape the ordinary, and it's got the date of 1915. Well, absolutely everything here ties in with the theme that I'm talking about. And I did this when Rachel from Roxy Creations put out her video, and she did exactly this, and I have, well, she didn't do exactly this, I've embellished it further, but her idea was to put the vellum or the tracing paper over the top of a botanical image, and so I thought that was absolutely brilliant. I love a lot of Rachel's ideas, and so I have just brought that round, and then I've added my own washi tape and fluffy paper and a sentiment. Well, this is a very pretty botanical image of maybe chamomile or feverfew. It is definitely a herb anyway, and something that would have been beneficial. So I think that this could have been an alpine plant, something growing in one of these Swiss mountains. So it's going here, and that is going to be a side tuck and a pocket. So yes, I did this. I haven't got a video on it because it was just something that I did as a personal thing, just sitting down, having a play, and just using an idea that I'd seen on the internet, and I really enjoyed doing that. And sometimes it's nice for me to practice what I say and make time for me and just have a play quietly without it being a video. And that's what that was. So I love that. I really love that, because that's an old vintage book page, and I have the book where the pages are falling out. So I've got a few books like that where they're damaged, and this was one of them. I found here in my ephemera a little drawing. What's interesting is the organised garden. There's a big house, and there's lots of different areas, and there's lanes and roads, there's trees, and there's interesting things that have been put in this plan. Quite a sort of a childlike drawing, but definite emphasis on this area of organised gardens. It's just a little sketch of somebody's sort of ideal or a plan of something, but it's really interesting. So it's been folded previously, and so I'm just going to have it in here because it's all about garden design from somebody in the past. I mean, we don't know where it came from. It was just in a pack of letters and ephemera, but I love that because it fits perfectly with what I'm doing here. So that could have been the garden design for Ness Gardens, or somebody that was definitely having similar feelings towards gardening anyway. So it's obviously from a gardener, about a gardener, so it's definitely worth having it in my journal. So this is my page, and we've got the flip, we've got the accountancy paper there, and we've got the gardens at the forefront. So the gardens and the gardening and the botanicals and the feel and the energy of all that love and kindness and organic creativity coming at you, but with a serious backbone of business. And so that's the page with the promise of maybe branching out into different fabrics, not just cotton but silk as well. So not just the botanical business but also the cotton industry that surrounds them, that funds them, that they're trying desperately to move away from so they can focus on their beautiful gardens. And now with this lovely pocket and tuck over here for some more writing paper. It was probably going to be some vintage paper, which I'll find in a minute, but I'm sure you might be intrigued to see what this little note is. It's not a note at all, it is a letter, one of my letters, and I did indeed find it in this envelope, the same as I did the Betty letters. But this is a one-off, and have a look at this writing. Absolutely beautiful. This letter comes to you from December 1926 regarding Miss Marjorie Cooper. Miss Marjorie Cooper, this is to certify that the above young lady has been a student at this college for some 11 months. She came well recommended as regards her general education, and this has been supplemented by a host of training in commercial subjects, in all of which she has made excellent progress. She now takes a good note in Pitman's shorthand at 100 words per minute, is a rapid and reliable operator of the various makes of standard typewriters, and has a good knowledge of the principles of DE bookkeeping. We can speak in very high terms of Miss Cooper's personal attributes. She is punctual and regular, neat and careful in her work, earnest in her pursuit of her studies, conscientious in the discharge of her duties, and she is of ladylike demeanour and agreeable personality. We have every confidence in recommending her as a capable and reliable office assistant, and feel sure she will do her utmost in the interests of her employers. We wish her every success. Principals. Well, there we go. How perfect is that? What a brilliant find. So in 1926, Miss Marjorie Cooper is looking for employment, and she is an excellent bookkeeper and a reliable office assistant. Well, I have the perfect job for her. So she can come and join the team that is at Ness Botanical Gardens in 1926 when Arthur Bully was retired and going off out to New Zealand and Australia and places like that with his daughter, leaving behind his wife to manage the business and other aspects of the garden and their lives. So I'm fairly sure that Harriet would have needed some office assistance, and I bet you anything she would have had somebody to help her keep the books and do the day-to-day, particularly as they were advancing in their years. So I think that this is perfect to fit with my storytelling, which is fictitious storytelling at this point, I hasten to add, but I do know that they kept the business going, and then that is something that their son picked up along with work to do with the cotton industry business as well, that he inherited his shares of that, and Arthur Bully's daughter inherited the botanical gardens. So between them they did very well, although they gave it all away because they were philanthropists later on. Very kind people. I'm very pleased to be journaling about such an interesting topic that has taken me all over the world. Once again, I have been able to connect with all of you from around the world because this story has resonated with everybody, because you are all your countries are involved in the collection of seeds that has played its part in certainly this story, but everybody else's country story with the botanical seeds being swapped between countries. And then, of course, we've had the plant hunters themselves, the explorers that have gone out to these places. And that is what this booklet was all about here, where I'd imagined that they would have gone with the Horticultural Society. Actually, the National Geographic, as it turns out, sponsored some of the trips along with Arthur Bully's money as an investor, and he would sponsor them to go out and collect seeds, not for just his own personal gain, but he would join forces in a syndicate with others as well, and they would send these plant collecting teams out to places like California, the Andes, in South America. And so from France to the offices at Nest Botanical Garden, I shall leave that there with 3 pages now complete, and I'm going to try and find something pretty to go on this side that gives me a more of that French feel. I want to bring in some more linens, maybe some linen samples, and then I have this to complete on the front here. Whether I get this done this week or not, it's anyone's guess, isn't it, really? But I don't know why I'm putting pressure on myself. I've got all the time in the world in my quiet crafting space, and I'm sure you'd be only too delighted to see the odd page being done as and when it gets done. But I will now, from the beginning of October, be looking at fall crafts and autumn crafts and other things as well. So it won't all be about this. We will move away from this, but definitely the techniques, I shall add things in here and there. And yeah, we're getting a little bit more chunky now. It's doing that. But it's still very much sitting flat. And this will hug round, and of course we can have a tie or a closure or anything we want. I might put a button in there, I might sew something on there, and then I'm going to put some other panel in there, I believe, maybe a folio. So that's all coming up. And what else is coming up is the prize draw for the 2,000 subscribers. So that'll be a little video coming up later today. So for those of you that have already hit Friday, it will probably be late Friday evening for you, and everybody else it will be Friday morning. So that will be happening in the next few hours, but I need to go to sleep. So if you happen to be already in Friday receiving this, and the rest of us are asleep, then you still have a chance to enter the prize draw, and that is up on the playlist linked below, so you can just have a look at that, and you can see that I'm giving away 9 goodie bags for my 2,000 subscriber prize giveaway. So thank you very much for joining me this evening in my quiet crafting space. I hope that it's been well received in yours. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, do watch some other videos of mine, and above everything else, just slow down and make crafting time for you. Bye bye now.